You felt it, haven't you? That electric tension rippling through your reality right now. Something massive is shifting beneath the surface of your awareness, and your entire system knows it. What if I told you that the moments when everything feels unstable, when your world seems to be reorganizing itself without your permission, are actually the clearest signals that evolution is demanding your attention? Not because you've made a mistake, but because you've reached what scientists call a bifurcation point. The moment when your consciousness can no longer sustain its current patterns and must leap into entirely new dimensions of possibility. But here's what nobody talks about. Bifurcation points don't feel like gentle transitions. They feel like controlled demolitions of everything you thought you knew about yourself and your reality. And most people panic during these moments because they mistake evolutionary pressure for personal failure. They don't realize they're standing at the most sacred threshold in all of nature. The place where systems either collapse into chaos or reorganize into higher orders of complexity and coherence. Let me take you deep into the science of transformation itself. In complexity theory, every living system, from ecosystems to economies to human consciousness, operates within what researchers call phase space. Think of this as the energetic territory where your current version of reality can exist and function. But as you grow, as you heal, as you expand your awareness, you begin generating frequencies that no longer fit within your existing phase space. Your consciousness literally outgrows the container it's been living in. This is where bifurcation points emerge. The word bifurcation comes from the Latin meaning to divide into two branches. In systems dynamics, it describes those critical moments when a system under increasing pressure reaches a threshold where its current structure becomes impossible to maintain. The system must either collapse entirely or leap to a completely new level of organization. There's no middle ground, no gradual transition, just the decisive moment when everything changes. But here's the profound part that most people miss. Bifurcation points aren't random disruptions. They're evolutionary necessities. Every complex system in the universe, from galaxies forming from cosmic dust to neurons, developing new neural pathways to civilizations, advancing through technological revolutions, all progress through these same transformational gateways. They represent the universe's fundamental drive toward greater complexity, consciousness, and creative expression. Your personal bifurcation points operate on identical principles. When you've been doing inner work, when you've been raising your vibration, when you've been calling in new levels of love, abundance, or purpose, you're literally increasing the energetic pressure within your consciousness system. At first, nothing seems to change. Your old patterns, relationships, and circumstances appear stable. But beneath the surface, tension is building. Think about water reaching its boiling point. At 99 degrees, it's still liquid. The change appears gradual, predictable. But at 100 degrees, everything transforms instantly. The molecular structure reorganizes completely. Liquid becomes gas. The system doesn't partially boil. It hits a bifurcation point and leaps to an entirely different state of being. This same dynamic governs every meaningful transformation in your life. But unlike water, your consciousness has choice during these critical moments. When you reach your personal bifurcation point, when the pressure of your expanding awareness can no longer be contained by your current reality structure, you face what complexity scientists call strange attractors. These are the possible futures your system can collapse into. Some lead to higher orders of consciousness, creativity, and fulfillment. Others lead to regression, fragmentation, or stagnation. What determines which future manifests isn't positive thinking or willpower. It's your capacity to maintain coherence during chaos, your ability to stay present and aligned while everything familiar dissolves around you. Because bifurcation points are inherently unstable, they're the moments when your system is most sensitive to the slightest influences. A single thought pattern, emotional response, or energetic choice can determine which new reality crystallizes from the field of infinite possibilities. This is why ancient wisdom traditions have always emphasized equanimity during times of change. They understood that transformation requires you to become a stable center within instability. Not because you're controlling the outcome, but because your inner coherence acts as a strange attractor that draws your system toward its highest possible reorganization. Let me share what this looks like practically. You've been working on yourself for months or years, meditating, healing trauma, setting boundaries, clarifying your vision. Then suddenly, everything starts falling apart simultaneously. Relationships become strained, financial situations shift unexpectedly, your career path becomes uncertain. Health issues emerge. Emotional patterns you thought you'd resolved return with intensity. Most people interpret this as evidence they're doing something wrong. They assume their spiritual practices aren't working or that they're being punished for wanting more. But from a bifurcation point perspective, this chaos is actually proof that your inner work is succeeding. Your consciousness has reached the threshold where your old reality structure can no longer contain your expanding energy. The breakdown isn't a setback. It's the necessary prelude to breakthrough. Think about a butterfly in its chrysalis. From the outside, nothing appears to be happening. But inside, the caterpillar's entire body is dissolving into what scientists call imaginal soup. Its cellular structure completely liquefies. Only small clusters of cells called imaginal discs remain, carrying the blueprint for wings, antennae, and the butterfly's new form. If you open the chrysalis during this stage, you wouldn't find a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You'd find apparent destruction. But this dissolution is the most creative moment in the butterfly's entire existence. Those imaginal discs are using the nutrients from the caterpillar's dissolved body to construct an entirely new organism. One capable of flight, of perceiving ultraviolet light, of navigating by magnetic fields. The caterpillar had to completely deconstruct for the butterfly to emerge. There was no way to gradually modify the caterpillar into a flying creature. The transformation required complete reorganization at a cellular level. Your consciousness undergoes identical processes during bifurcation points. Parts of your identity, belief systems, and life structures that served your previous level of development must dissolve to provide the raw materials for your next evolutionary stage. This isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. Comfort would signal that you're staying within familiar territory, avoiding the transformational pressures that create genuine growth. But here's where human consciousness has an advantage over other natural systems. You can consciously participate in your own bifurcation processes. You can recognize the signs, understand the mechanics, and align your choices with evolutionary forces instead of fighting against them. This doesn't eliminate the intensity, but it transforms your relationship to the chaos from resistance to collaboration. The first sign you're approaching a bifurcation point is increasing sensitivity to everything. Your emotional responses become more intense. Small triggers create disproportionate reactions. Your energy feels unstable, swinging between exhaustion and hyperactivity. You might experience physical symptoms without clear causes. Sleep patterns shift. Dreams become vivid or disturbing. Your usual coping strategies stop working effectively. These aren't pathological symptoms. They're indicators that your nervous system is recalibrating to accommodate expanded frequencies. Like a radio adjusting to receive signals from more distant stations, your consciousness is becoming sensitive to information it previously couldn't detect. This hypersensitivity creates temporary instability, but it's also opening you to entirely new levels of intuition, creativity, and spiritual perception. The second sign is the collapse of certainties. Things you thought you knew about yourself, your relationships, your purpose, your future suddenly feel questionable. This cognitive destabilization isn't confusion. It's your awareness expanding beyond the limitations of your previous worldview. When a system approaches bifurcation, its organizing principles become fluid. Fixed beliefs, rigid identities, and absolute truths all soften to allow new possibilities to emerge. Many people panic during this phase because they mistake uncertainty for being lost. But uncertainty is actually the natural state of consciousness at the edge of evolution. It's the mental equivalent of the imaginal soup stage. Your old conceptual framework is dissolving to make space for a more sophisticated understanding of reality. The temporary confusion isn't a problem to solve. It's a creative medium to work with. The third sign is accelerated synchronicities alongside apparent obstacles. You start noticing meaningful coincidences, recurring numbers, unexpected connections, and serendipitous encounters. But simultaneously, practical matters become more complicated. Plans fall through at the last moment. Resources become scarce. Communication breaks down. Support systems feel unreliable. This paradox reflects the dual nature of bifurcation points. The synchronicities are signals from your emerging future self, indicating that you're aligning with new possibilities. The obstacles represent the resistance of your current reality structure, which is trying to maintain stability even though it's no longer sustainable. You're experiencing two different timelines simultaneously. One is collapsing, while the other is crystallizing. Understanding this dynamic completely changes how you navigate these periods. Instead of seeing obstacles as evidence you're off track, you recognize them as the natural friction of transformation. Instead of dismissing synchronicities as wishful thinking, you understand them as early signals from your reorganizing consciousness. You stop fighting the chaos and start dancing with it. But here's the crucial part. Your response during bifurcation points determines everything. These are the moments when your consciousness is most malleable, most responsive to subtle influences. A single decision to trust instead of control, to breathe instead of contract, to stay present instead of escape, can completely alter which new reality manifests from the field of possibilities. This is why spiritual traditions have always emphasized surrender during times of upheaval. Not passive resignation, but active participation in forces larger than your individual will. Surrender means aligning your personal intentions with evolutionary intelligence. It means recognizing that the chaos isn't happening to you, it's happening through you as consciousness evolves toward greater complexity and awareness. From a practical standpoint, this means developing what I call bifurcation point protocols, specific practices that help you maintain coherence while your reality reorganizes. The first protocol is somatic anchoring. During periods of intense change, your nervous system needs consistent signals of safety. This doesn't come from controlling external circumstances, which is impossible during bifurcation points. It comes from creating internal stability through breathwork, movement, and conscious embodiment practices. Simple techniques like extended exhales, gentle spinal movements, and heart-centered meditation help regulate your autonomic nervous system. This isn't about spiritual bypassing or forcing positivity. It's about maintaining the physiological coherence necessary for clear decision-making during turbulent times. When your nervous system is regulated, you can perceive opportunities that would be invisible if you were operating from survival mode. The second protocol is energetic discernment. Bifurcation points make you highly sensitive to external influences. People, places, media, and activities that previously felt neutral can now feel overwhelming or depleting. This sensitivity isn't weakness, it's precision. Your consciousness is fine-tuning its frequency and needs to avoid discordant energies that could interfere with the reorganization process. This often means temporarily reducing social interactions, avoiding mainstream media, and being selective about which conversations and activities you engage with. Some people interpret this as becoming antisocial or escapist, but it's actually the opposite. You're protecting the delicate process of your own evolution so you can eventually contribute to the world from a more expanded and authentic place. The third protocol is intentional uncertainty. This might sound counterintuitive, but one of the most powerful things you can do during bifurcation points is to consciously embrace not knowing. Instead of trying to figure everything out mentally, you practice resting in the mystery of transformation. You make decisions based on energy and intuition rather than logic and planning. This doesn't mean abandoning all structure or becoming irresponsible. It means recognizing that the organizing intelligence of evolution operates through principles more sophisticated than your individual reasoning. When you try to control bifurcation processes through mental analysis, you often interfere with the natural wisdom that's trying to emerge. But when you stay present and responsive, you can participate consciously in your own transformation. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why do bifurcation points often feel so difficult and disruptive? Why doesn't evolution happen smoothly and gradually? The answer lies in what complexity scientists call path dependence. Every system, including your consciousness, is constrained by its history. The neural pathways, emotional patterns, belief systems, and behavioral habits you've developed over years or decades create powerful momentum toward familiar ways of being. This momentum serves important functions. It provides stability, predictability, and efficiency in your daily life. But it also creates resistance to change, even when that change would serve your highest good. Your consciousness literally has grooves worn into it by repetition. These grooves naturally channel your energy toward reproducing familiar experiences, regardless of whether those experiences actually fulfill you. Bifurcation points represent the moments when evolutionary pressure becomes strong enough to overcome path dependence. But this requires significant force because you're not just changing surface-level behaviors or circumstances. You're reorganizing the fundamental patterns that generate your entire experience of reality. This deep-level transformation necessarily involves the dissolution of existing structures before new ones can form. Think of it like renovating a house while you're still living in it. You can't simply tear down walls and rebuild without experiencing significant disruption to your daily routines. But the temporary chaos is necessary to create the expanded, more functional living space you desire. The key is understanding that the mess isn't permanent. It's a transitional stage in a larger creative process. This perspective completely reframes your relationship to difficult periods in your life. Instead of seeing them as evidence of failure or punishment, you recognize them as labor pains of your own becoming. Each challenge, each loss, each moment of uncertainty is part of the sacred work of consciousness, evolving toward greater freedom and authentic expression. But there's an even deeper layer to understand. Bifurcation points aren't just personal phenomena. They're collective, planetary, and cosmic processes. The chaos you're experiencing individually is part of a larger phase transition happening across multiple scales simultaneously. Humanity as a species is approaching its own evolutionary bifurcation point. Our current systems of economics, politics, education, and meaning-making are becoming unsustainable and must reorganize or collapse. This means your personal transformation is intimately connected to the transformation of the entire planet. When you navigate your own bifurcation points with consciousness and courage, you're not just healing yourself. You're contributing to the collective evolution of human awareness. Your individual breakthrough creates ripple effects that support others in their own transformational processes. From this perspective, the temporary disruption of your personal reality takes on profound meaning. You're not just upgrading your own life circumstances, you're participating in the universe's fundamental drive toward greater complexity, consciousness, and creative expression. You're allowing evolutionary intelligence to work through your individual awareness to birth new possibilities that didn't exist before. This is why maintaining coherence during bifurcation points is so crucial. When you stay aligned and responsive during these critical transitions, you become a stable reference point for others who are also navigating chaos and uncertainty. Your presence demonstrates that transformation is possible, that breakdown can lead to breakthrough, that apparent endings are often disguised beginnings. But how do you maintain this coherence practically when everything feels uncertain and overwhelming? The key is understanding that coherence doesn't mean controlling outcomes or avoiding discomfort. It means staying present, responsive, and aligned with your deepest values regardless of external circumstances. It means trusting the intelligence of the transformational process, even when you can't see where it's leading. One powerful practice is what I call bifurcation point breathing. When you feel overwhelmed by the intensity of change, pause and take 7 deep breaths. With each inhale, imagine drawing in trust, presence, and connection to evolutionary intelligence. With each exhale, release the need to know exactly what's happening or where it's leading. This simple practice helps reset your nervous system and reminds you that you don't have to navigate transformation alone. Another crucial element is community during these transitions. Bifurcation points can feel isolating because your experience often doesn't match conventional wisdom about how life should unfold. Having connection with others who understand the transformational process provides essential support and perspective. This doesn't mean commiserating about how difficult everything is. It means witnessing each other's courage in the face of uncertainty and celebrating the evidence of growth even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is, once you understand bifurcation points as natural evolutionary processes rather than personal crises, everything changes. You start recognizing the early signs and can prepare consciously for transformational cycles. You develop trust in your own resilience and adaptability. You begin seeing challenges as opportunities for expansion rather than evidence of failure. Most importantly, you realize that you're not a victim of chaotic circumstances. You're a conscious participant in the universe's endless creativity. Each bifurcation point is an invitation to become more than you've ever been before. More authentic, more creative, more connected to your purpose, more capable of contributing to the healing and evolution of our world. Right now, as you're listening to this, you might be in the middle of your own bifurcation point. The relationship's shifting, the certainties dissolving, the synchronicities accelerating, the familiar structures becoming unstable. If so, I want you to know that what you're experiencing isn't random or meaningless. You're at one of the most sacred thresholds in all of existence, the place where consciousness transforms itself through conscious participation in evolutionary intelligence. The intensity you're feeling isn't punishment. It's the natural result of your awareness expanding beyond the containers that previously held it. The uncertainty isn't evidence you're lost. It's proof that you're growing into possibilities that your previous self couldn't even imagine. The chaos isn't destruction. It's reorganization toward greater coherence and authentic expression. And if you're not currently in a major bifurcation point, understanding these principles prepares you for the inevitable transitions ahead. Because consciousness evolution isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process of spiraling development where each new level of awareness eventually becomes the launching point for even greater expansion. The universe is always calling you forward into more of who you're capable of becoming. Bifurcation points are simply the mechanisms through which this calling manifests in your actual life experience. They're invitations to participate consciously in the greatest adventure possible, the evolution of consciousness itself. So whether you're currently in the chaos of transformation or preparing for future growth cycles, remember this: you're not separate from the intelligence that creates galaxies and evolves species and births new possibilities from apparent nothingness. You are that intelligence becoming conscious of itself through your individual awareness. And every bifurcation point you navigate with presence and courage advances not just your own evolution, but the evolution of consciousness throughout the entire universe. This is the profound truth hidden within every moment of uncertainty and change. You're not just living your life, you're participating in the universe's endless creativity, allowing new forms of beauty, wisdom, and possibility to emerge through your willingness to transform. And that makes every difficult transition not just meaningful, but sacred.